Stay hopeful.
Stay hopeful.
Stay hopeful.
Stay hopeful.
Hey man, say man, it's Brother Charles.
And I'm Jasmine.
And welcome to another installment of the Hopefull Romantics Podcast.
This week, wow, we have, you go by so many names. Dr. Hill, Dr. Chill, as some of my friends call you. Yes, Dr. Chill. Only Jasmine calls you that. What other names do you go by?
Mom.
I was going to say that for last, but okay. My mother, wow. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me.
To talk about relationships, love, life, and how you've kind of maneuvered that journey for your whole life, really. Yeah. Okay. So before we get started, we always pray in. So Charles is going to pray, and then we'll get started.
All right, Father God, in the name of Jesus, we give you praise and honor for this opportunity to fellowship, to talk. And we hope, Lord, that everyone under the sound of our voice is blessed about what is spoken today. And we just want to thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so one of the reasons why I felt compelled to invite you to sit down with us is because all my life you have done everything. In a standpoint of staying in school, going to school, working a career, finding what you're passionate about, going through different avenues, whether that was education, whether that was law, whether that was, higher education, whatever it was, you did it while also being wife and mother to 4 kids. So all my life, you kind of did it all. And to me, I look up as a 25-year-old, looking in the horizon of, wife and mother and just like moving into my future, really asking, how do you prioritize yourself while also being wife, mother, and then, individual?
Well, that is actually a really good question. And questions added in there just because it's more than one. And thank you both for having me and feeling like that I was actually qualified enough to speak on your show.
Qualified.
I do appreciate that. I mean, because we got to cut this piece out. See, you just messed up that whole part.
Why?
What's wrong with the word qualified?
We're going to keep talking, but
qualified? You mine. Like that's what comes with the territory.
Like you're qualified by just being my mother.
If not you, then who?
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate that introduction. That was very nice of you, very kind, and it wasn't easy. I will definitely say that. Prioritizing yourself as an individual, I think, definitely comes first. My primary focus through all of this is actually, to make sure that you have to maintain a really good connection, a spiritual connection. And for me personally, that was my Christian relationship and followings and the teachings of Christ. I do think that having a solid foundation helps to establish who you are, and it helps you to identify with who you are. Before you can go into any of those roles of being a wife, then a mother, and a good friend, neighbor, you have to know who you are. And priorities, I do like that you put that word in there because you do have to prioritize. That is major when it comes to life balance. And when you asked me to speak, I was thinking, oh my gosh, because a lot of it, I think, for some women, and I can definitely say this for myself, a lot of it was innate. It was just, it's just who I am. And I definitely am a believer that your environment shapes who you are. Mm-hmm. But that shape is based off of your decisions. You cannot use that environment as an excuse, nor would I give it credit for the decisions that you make, because ultimately that choice is yours. And as an individual, I would say one of the things I've always known was that I was going to have a higher level of education. I can probably think back as far as maybe 3rd, 4th grade. I knew that
you were going to be a doctor.
Coming from a very long line of educators, entrepreneurs, that it was just something that it was just commonplace for me. So it wasn't something I really thought about. And I think initially I wasn't really thinking about going into education. And then when I thought about going into education, my initial shout out to all of the freshmen going into University of Montevallo in Montevallo, Alabama. I was looking at the speech pathology area.
Really?
That's where I started. That's where I started out. And midway, somewhere along the way, this guy was dating was like miles and miles away, and I was like,
this guy
that I was dating was miles and miles away, and you know how all of that, all of that shapes your thinking when you're young, and instead of sticking to what my parents wanted me to do, I chose to move closer to him, where my major is your father.
I was like, why? Who's this guy you're dating in college? I was like, what's that?
So at that point, at my 2-year mark, I moved to Montgomery, Alabama, where my major was changed to elementary education until I started student teaching. And when I did my student teaching, I knew right then, pump your brakes. There needs to be something going on for me to sit in. There's got to be something wrong with these kids for me to sit in a classroom with. Whoa, it was pure madness. It is different when you're in school learning the context of something.
That's true.
And when you actually have to sit down to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So then I took on an additional semester so that I could be certified in special ed. And that's kind of how the beginning of the educational piece started for me. But I knew at that point that I would go higher than actually teaching in a high school, or that the education piece was going to evolve into something more, because at that time it was just part of where I was in life and the development as an individual. It was satisfying a goal. My priority was to finish school, so it satisfied that goal of actually finishing my education. Yes.
I just want to add, because I feel like the story's already, inspiring. But I just want to add that you had a kid this whole time.
I did.
So you say that your goal being finishing school, but correct me if I'm wrong, you went in, like you had Chris by your freshman year in college. And you finished in 4, am I correct?
I did.
That's a flex.
Like
Absolutely did.
And that's with a major change. That's with a move.
It was.
With a baby.
Another flex.
An infant. I don't even say an infant.
The biggest flex.
That is true.
You finished in 4 years. So that, to me, when I'm talking about priorities and like how you fit yourself and all of that, like that's huge.
Well, I think it's just foundation. I had extremely supportive parents. I grew up with knowing my father would tell me all the time that I could be anything I wanted to be. He was a very reassuring father when it comes to what I could do as a woman. My mother was equally there, and although at the time it was this big taboo that their daughter had a child out of wedlock, they were still extremely supportive of me to finish my career, finish my education, especially my mother. Was that easy? Absolutely not, because that was not free. There was no free babysitting at our house. And I think my oldest,
you paid for?
No.
Oh,
Like free as in when I left the house, he left the house.
Oh, I see. So there was no, I'm gonna just drop him off.
No. Even in school, it was to the point that, and I think Chris would be, our oldest son, would even tell you that he remembered days of sitting in class with me. But it's just, I knew this was something that was going to happen. They supported me, but that was a decision that I had chose. And they weren't going to let it just, it was a decision. It was, at that point in time, considered a bad decision. It wasn't the best of choices that I could have made. But even though it wasn't the best of choices, they still supported me through and encouraged me to continue my education despite all of the additional things that came along with it. So as far as partying, having fun, going out with my friends at night, a lot of that really didn't happen because I had other responsibilities.
Yeah.
So, and with those other responsibilities, I think personally for me, kids don't ask to come into this world.
No, they don't.
And since they don't ask to come into this world, I feel as a parent and as a mother that my priorities are automatically shifted. They no longer are just supportive of myself. The selfishness is out the window because now you have someone else that you have to that you have to consider in your decision making.
Wow.
So with that being the case, you know, I wanted him to have the best of education. And I knew that there had to be more. I had to do more, and there had to be more from the decisions that I had made in order to take care of him. So, I feel like we're just like so off topic now, but individual growth, though, I knew I had to keep going. I had the parents that supported me in continuing despite my decisions. And they were there for me through all of my good and bad choices. And with that support, I was able to figure out ways to, you know, keep striving for more, doing better, going higher. And just from where I grew up, the whole just concept of family supports each other. That's just what we do. And so with that being the case, I wanted that for my children. And wanting that for my children, I also knew that although I came from a line of women on my father's side that didn't necessarily work in an industry or outside of the home, that was very different from my mom's side of the family. They did work, the women work outside of the home. So I had that toggle between working outside of the home and inside of the home. And I tried to make the best of both worlds because I do enjoy having my family, having, you know, fun in the house with the children, and then fun with everything that we do inside of the house. So I guess another key besides priorities is to make it fun. Try to have fun with what you're doing and no matter what state you're in. So striving through as a wife, prioritizing as a wife, I would say for the hopefuls out there that it's you have to prioritize the marriage. It has to be, and because we started out with a child first, and I have not been, whether, you know, there's some out there, oh, that's not good, you shouldn't say this or whatever, but I've never been a proponent of my children getting married young. And I got married at the age of 21, and there's so much growing that you need to do as an individual before you get to the point that you are ready to share yourself with someone else. You haven't done enough self-assessment. You've just become legal. You know, you're not. I mean, there are people out there that can do it and probably have done it. But personally,
you say you were 21?
Yes, personally,
so that's pretty young.
And 21, married. By the age of 28, I had 4 children. So, and I was definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm definitely knew that I was going to work outside of the home. So to be able to continue striving in that vein, which was something that made me happy as an individual, but also to be able to take care of my family and to also be able to support my husband. There's a lot of sacrifices that one must make. And in the prioritizing, you have to know what makes you happy. And you have to be, when you make those decisions, when you identify what it is that makes you happy and brings you joy in your life, you have to be able to identify with how you're going to be able to mesh those things into the family so that you can achieve your personal happiness while also bringing happiness to others and those that are around you. Go ahead.
So I'm thinking about women my age who are going into their career, right? And you know that I want to be a doctor. And a lot of times there are other women either in that same industry or just other women who may be just older than us that will say, like, we can't have it all in terms of having the family and having the career. But from my recollection, you pretty much, I mean, you definitely were in the home when we were younger. But thinking about growing up, like you worked outside the home for most of my life.
Right.
So how did you, or was there ever a moment where you felt like you couldn't? You know what I mean? Like, was there ever a moment where you were like, wow, like maybe I should just rein it in, stay with my family because this is my priority? Or was there a moment where you were like, okay, well, yes, but no, I still want to continue to build my career?
Honestly, yes. I think I had those thoughts. And I had them around the time when I think you were maybe 2, 3, you were in preschool. Yeah. And I had 3 kids at the time. And to be able to work outside of the home and pay for daycare for 3 children was quite difficult. So at that time, in order to satisfy my need to work outside of the home, to have that adult interaction with other people, I worked at a daycare center. I worked at the daycare center on Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia,
where we went.
Wow,
and
she was around
my
more
children,
kids.
Yeah.
yes, my children then went to the daycare center. So essentially, I was working to pay for daycare because,
but still working, like you still,
but still working, absolutely. And it allowed me to be able to come home when my work was over, you guys came home, and from that vein, that's kind of how, when you went to elementary school and being certified as a teacher, I was able to leave at that point and go to school. No matter where we moved around to, I could work in one of the schools.
Yeah.
So that's how I was able to work outside of the house, but yet have my family to be a priority as well. So, and in the midst of it does sound like a lot, but knowing who you are, and I think both, at the time, I would say that everybody in the house knew that if Mama's in the house all day, oh my God, what is going on? You wanted me to work outside of the house. You wanted me to you wanted
you to have an outlet. We needed you to
Yes. You wanted me to work outside of the house. So then when I came home, then it could be the fun.
That's true. I do remember that.
We all needed that, because I tried the stay-at-home mom stuff, and it's a lot of work. My hat is tipped always to any woman who stays, or man at these days, who stays home and takes care of the house and the kids, because that is a tremendous amount of work that there is absolutely no pay, no dollar amount in this world that can actually pay for it, because done right, it is a lot of work. Lot of work.
So how did you make the decision? Because with it being a lot of work, I'm guessing you also felt the magnitude of that work. You know what I mean? Like the impact of that work.
Absolutely.
So how did you make the decision, knowing that impact, to continue to go to work? Because at a certain point, you stopped working in our school. You worked in school a long time. Like, I remember my oldest brother was in middle school, and she was working at the school, and then she would walk over to my school and be there. She was just always in the school, which wasn't always the best thing. But when you made the transition from working where we were, because that makes a difference. If you can see your child all day, you can eat lunch with me and, peek out while I'm at recess or go to my classes, you're still very much in our lives.
But that was a decision that I had to make, especially with prioritizing my family. By that time, your father had gone into the military. And to move from place to place to place to place, and then being an educator and understanding how gaps in education and lags between this place and the other happen, it was important to me that my children were on par as far as their education and that they were keeping up. And no matter what the national average was in math or science or reading, I wanted to ensure that my children were not missing out on anything. So the easiest way for me to do that would be to work in the system there to see what was going on, what's new, upcoming, what's going on in the industry. Also, to be able to acclimate myself to what you guys were learning and the environment that you were in. So I could understand what you were going through. And so when you came home and we did homework, we're like all on the same page. So it was always you guys are doing homework, I'm finishing up dinner, because I started dinner before we left out to go to school. But it's definitely just a priority.
Did you? Go ahead.
I just prioritized my family. And I won't say necessarily over, but it was to an extent over what my individual choices may have been, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I was always able to have that space there. That was my adult outlet, I would say, being able to work outside of the home. And with doing that, it just enabled me to be, personally, I feel like it enabled me to be a fuller individual and lead a fuller life.
Do you think that there was ever a time that you might have like slipped and felt like certain priorities, like when it came to prioritizing yourself, there was a moment in time where like that was slipping away from you? And if so, like how do you think you kind of got that back?
I do. I definitely feel like, when you're getting up at 4 a.m. to cook breakfast and all of that.
You better get that oatmeal.
To cook your breakfast and then to also start dinner, because you're going to you're going to work. You want your kids' breakfast is the most important part of the day. You want to get them off to a good start, and absolutely, you get on that hamster wheel of things going, and you can absolutely lose yourself into so many activities and so many other things that taking care of yourself becomes, an afterthought and put on that back burner. But personally for myself, when I realized that was going on, again, it's understanding who you are and what are the things that you personally need. And one of the things I've always enjoyed doing is I've always liked the theater, and I've always liked reading. So I would find myself at a movie.
Yes.
I had no problem ever going to the movies by myself. They just have that me time.
Yeah.
And books were always, that's always been like a part of my life. We would go somewhere and I would have baby cookies, bottles, books, books for them to read and a book for me to read. And I can read to them, and so it was just always there, even though it may seem something small, but it's something that I enjoy doing, that I could make a part of my life and a part of where we are and what we were doing. So absolutely, I felt like at times I was just like, oh my gosh, but although you feel that way, my sense of family and just wanting my children to have the best, to support my husband in all the things that he was doing. And let me tell you, that was no small feat either, because the military takes on an entire life of its own. So you have the military life and the things that are going on with his career and the supportive things that need to happen there. Then you have the family and the supportive things that you have to do with your children. And then you have your personal self. And so that's why those little things that you can do, that you identify with, that, okay, this is what I need to do to give myself a little peace, to give myself, and it may be for some women, just the 45 minutes to an hour to get away, to get your nails done, to get your hair done, just things of that sort. But it's got to be somewhere in that mix where you take the time to take care of yourself. I went through a phase where I was going to get a massage like every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or something like that. That was actually relaxing for me. And most of those happened in Hawaii. Okay. And I want to say it's Heaven on Earth was the name of the place that we used to go to.
Okay, Heaven on Earth.
really, really, really nice place. I don't even know if it's still open because that was like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, it's like 20 years ago.
Super nice place. Also, in taking care of yourself, I think I've always, not that I really enjoy the workout piece, but I do feel a sense of relaxation with walking. So I've always, almost always had a group of friends or ladies or something that we could go walking with to get that outlet, and adult conversation as well. So, go ahead.
I feel like I keep cutting you off. I'm sorry. But I truly do commend you because as you were talking, I remember those moments. I definitely remember you always, like, regularly, every 2 weeks you were getting your nails done. Like, that was an appointment that was not about to be missed.
Right.
You know, your hair was always, like, you always took care of yourself. And I'm now thinking back, I realized that was part of your self-care plan. You were quick to go find a movie. You didn't have to take any of it. If you would ask, but it didn't stop you if no one wanted to go see a movie, because that was a part of your time. You would share it with us if we wanted to, but you were fine going to a movie by yourself. You were fine going to dinner. Like, you would really go out without us. And sometimes you'd be like, where's mom? And she's like, I'm at a movie. Where are you? Like,
What you doing? What you up to?
Right.
So I do commend you because thinking back on that, those are the things that you may not realize you're learning from, but you are. So now, like, I may not hesitate when I'm like, well, I want to do something and maybe nobody else really wants to go with me. Well, if I want to do it and it's a part of my plan,
part of your self-care.
Yes, I should take take that time to build those habits.
And why would you deny yourself something as simple as that?
Yes.
Why would you? You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you going to see a movie by yourself. And I almost every time when I left the house, I was asked your dad, did he want to go? And it was perfectly okay if it was a football game or whatever on most of the time that he wanted to watch instead, which is okay. So he does that. That's his time. I'm watching my movie. That's my time. If you guys had cleaned up and done the things that you were supposed to have done that morning, you were welcome to go with me.
That's a toss-up.
Yeah.
It is a toss-up.
Take us. We didn't do them chores, but okay.
Oh, yes, we did do those tours every Saturday morning.
Yes, every Saturday morning. Every Saturday morning.
It was kind of rough, especially with track season and when the sports came into it, because they wanted to make those excuses. Because I'm tired.
Okay,
but,
all right.
Oh, you never said you were tired from track practice or something, that you couldn't clean your room?
Talking about priorities.
We are talking about priorities. The priority at that point was to get help from my family. And you must. It does take a village. And early on, before we left, maybe 2 years before, the years before your dad went in the military, we were in Alabama, so we were with family. So although the bulk of the care of the kids was on me, if there was something, you had family around and they were there to support you. But when the military piece comes into it, and I mean, that's a different family. You know, they have support families and sponsors and things of that sort. But, it's a different world when you get out there, because I wanted to be a part of my children's lives, because I didn't necessarily trust everybody around and with my children.
Facts.
So, and when you're going to different places, no, you're not spending, and I know there's going to be some issues, but no, you're not spending the night at everybody else's house. But they're welcome to come over to our house.
Exactly. We had
That's a black
sleepovers.
mantra.
We weren't going to nobody's house.
No.
They can come over here.
You're absolutely welcome to
They don't want to come over here. Oh, well, guess we're not going to hang out.
Right.
You'll see them tomorrow.
Yep.
We can go to the movies, and then their parents can bring them to the movies, and we can watch movies. We can go to the park. But as far as a sleepover somewhere else, that wasn't happening. Was not happening. So, I mean, again, it's just a priority, and again, I don't even, other than just the grace of God that got me through all of that gave me the energy to get up every morning and do that. And I want to say, I mean, I enjoy cooking. Cooking is another one of the things that brings
Let me tell you.
me joy. So therefore, when you find joy in something, it makes it easier for you to do it. So getting up at 4 a.m, that was my, because everybody else in the house is asleep while I'm fixing breakfast, packing lunches, prepping dinner. That's my time to do some meditation, to enjoy just caring for my family. So while you're doing that, then it's time to wake up the family. It's just all a love for the people that you're doing it for. That makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. So although it would seem like on the outside, that's just a lot. And I know my mother used to say, that is a lot. She used to tell me often that there's an easier way to do all of this stuff. And that was when, early in the marriage and early when the kids were really small, I was like making biscuits from scratch but that's just where what?
Getting the flour and the water.
Everything
In the morning?
Everything was from scratch.
Biscuits
The cakes were
was-
from scratch. But it was because that's what I had come from.
Yeah.
That's what my grandparents did. My mom would, when we were prepping for breakfast and stuff, that's just where I came from. But what I didn't take into account, and I did later when I started looking back to see how they actually made it through and made it through these times, I looked at, now my grandmother's absolutely everything was from scratch because they had so many children. But as for me, my mother, there was really only 2 of us. I know we had 3 kids, or they had 3 kids, but I have a younger brother, but he's almost 10 years beneath us. So,
Not beneath, but
10 years younger. He is 10 years younger than Corey and I. So, with that being the case, she had 2 children, whereas I had 4. And I know when she would come see me and I would be just running around doing everything, she just was like, oh my God, girl, you're going to burn out with all of this. But I didn't burn out because it was just a joy and a love for who I was doing it for.
Wow.
And the reason why I was doing it. So I wanted my family to be safe and happy and healthy, but I also wanted the same thing for myself. So with doing that, you just prioritize. You get your priorities straight. You ask God for strength, and He will give it to you, because a lot of this stuff that you're sitting here all amazed that I was able to do it just didn't even faze me at the time that all these things were going on. It was just something that had to happen, and I did it.
So with that, you wouldn't, at the time, would you have deemed it model behavior though? Because when I hear you talk about that, and I look at the way Jasmine interacts with the people around her and the people in her life, and the way that she shows up for people, would you deem that a way of kind of showing her how she was supposed to maneuver in life too?
I will say that Jasmine is child number 3, but I will definitely say that the birth of a girl, for me personally, it did change things for me. At that moment, it was like, okay, I want to make sure that the things that I am doing is showing her the best way, a more excellent way to live and to do better than the things that I have done. That's another one of the reasons why I wanted to continue to further my education, because I wanted my children to see that, yes, it can be done. Yes, you can do this. In the midst of whatever it is that you're going through, you can continue to strive to get your education and do it. Now, I've also shared with them the difficulties of prioritizing and trying to get to that level with a full-fledged family. So that point is not easy. And I've always recommended that, before you get to that point of a marriage, my advice was you want to get this education out of the way. Because when the children start coming, well, first you got a spouse that you have to care for and you have to spend time with, and you have to learn to become one with, and you have to accept some of their ways, and good or bad, and you have to learn how to walk with them. And then children come into it, and a lot of times you haven't figured out how to walk with your spouse before you bring in little ones that you're trying to teach how to grow and love, and that is definitely a monkey wrench thrown in there if you have not taken the time to cultivate that relationship to the point that you understand what a sacrifice is and someone is not being taken for granted. Mm-hmm. Because all too often, those unspoken things become issues. Because one is believing, oh, I'm doing this for this. And the other will think, oh, okay, this is okay. That's her role or that's his role. Mm-hmm. But have we really discussed what these things are? And I don't want to really say that there are roles anymore, because I know there are certain things that women do and men do that separate men from women. But at the same time, when it comes to the family, it shouldn't be that the mother is doing every single thing that's going on actually in the house, and the father does everything that's going on outside of the house. If that works for you, it works for you. But that needs to be a conversation, and it needs to be communicated so that there are no misunderstandings and no one's feeling taken for granted or no one's feeling overworked for any particular reason. These can cause some major issues within the house. Then you have mom upset about something, dad upset about something, and the kids just don't know what's going on. They're just thinking we're just in this craziness and it's called home. But no, you don't want that craziness to become your home. And with doing that, that's why, again, you want to make sure you take the time to cultivate that relationship. First of all, within yourself, you need to have a strong spiritual foundation so that you know who you are in Christ. And once you know who you are in Christ, you know what you bring to the table for another person. And we kind of grew up, my husband and I, in the age, and I should only speak for myself. I grew up where women had specific roles and men had specific roles. And that's just the way things were, whether it was discussed or not. But times have changed, and a lot of these things, I personally feel, should be shared, especially if it's okay with the agreement in the household is that the female is going to work on the outside, or if both parents are going to work on the outside of the home. So again, priorities, focus, knowing what it is that you want. And I guess without being stated or without being said, I've always wanted that happy family. You know, my father grew up in a large family, and my mother in semi-large family. And then even with my husband, he grew up in a larger family than I did, because I was, 10, 12 years old when my youngest brother was born. So it was actually just me and my brother, just the two of us growing up. So the whole big family thing, although I saw it in my father, my mother's family, and then my husband's family, it was something that was relatively new to me to actually do and live in.
Yeah, because we were most of 3 of us are 2 years apart, and then there's like a little bit of a gap, but not really.
Not really.
We were all young at the same time. No, I think back, I really don't know how you did it to have 4 kids that close together. I don't. But one thing that you said that made me smile, made me chuckle, was you said that you wanted to teach us that kind of despite everything, you can still do whatever you need to do, but you wanted us to get certain things out of the way before we started a family, right? And even though that was your intention, for me, it was more so like, oh, you can do it. Like, no matter what happens, like, push through and make it happen. You know, it wasn't so much of, okay, I finished school, check that off. Now I'm ready for this, or now I'm ready for this, because especially for me, who I'll be in school forever, you know? So like, at what point does that apply to me if you're saying, or wait till the education's done to start your family? Like, wait till I'm 35? Like, that's just not realistic to me. So what I took from that, from the intention being one thing, what I took from it was, I've seen my mom achieve all of her goals, were the goals that I've been aware of, but like, even though she had a family, even though she was wife, mother, individual, she was able to do all of this and still maintain our household. So to me, I'm like, okay, that it makes it doable in my mind. So I may not have it I mean, I have all my education done before I start my family, but if it doesn't happen like that, like I've had an example of someone who did it,
but let's not be delusional. It was extremely difficult, and it was not best case scenario. It was not the best case scenario. I will say that. You do what you have to do, and that, if anything, I do hope that was one thing, that I have instilled in my children, that, not regardless, but because of the decisions we make, you live with the consequences of your decisions. Yes, and in living with the consequences of your decisions, you don't get upset, you don't get mad, you don't get angry because of the situation. You chose to do this, that, or the other. And one thing that I have just often been fascinated with is the fact that God gave us free will. That's just simply amazing to me, because He has the authority and right to make us do anything that He wants us to do. Yeah. But He gave us the ability and the choice to choose, even with choosing Him. Wow. Even with choosing Him. He's not going to make you follow Him. He's not going to make you love Him.
Do the right thing. Like, there's
None of that.
None of that. It's all
here is my word. This is what I have to say to you. You can choose to live this way, or you can choose to live another way. But there are consequences for anything. Either way you choose, there are consequences for your choices.
Yeah, I definitely remember that growing up. There's good choices or bad choices. We were definitely taught that. Regardless of whatever decision you make, your life is a product of the decisions that you make. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember when you guys started telling us that, but that's definitely something I think about often.
I think the first time that I actually really heard that life is all about the choices you make is my father-in-law, who was our consumer math teacher in 10th grade. He said, life is all about choices. It's about the choices you make. And that is very, very true. Very true. So it is not extremely easy, although I may have made it look easy. There's sacrifice that comes with everything that we choose to do. There is a sacrifice. So what is it that you're sacrificing? It may look like I'm able to do it all, and you made the comment of having it all. Can you truly have it all? I don't know if you can truly have it all. I know I have worked hard to make that statement true. But I have to admit that with some of the choices, there were deficits in areas that I wished, I had paid more attention to, more focus on, that I didn't. And again, because you don't pay attention to those areas, there is lack in those areas. Yeah. So there's, definitely, again, another consequence to the choices that I made. I don't think I would have been a happy parent, mother, wife, staying home continuously. I don't think I would have, but would I have been able to do it? Absolutely, because when I was at home and when the school system was just so outlandish that I decided, nope, we're just not doing this, it's a waste of our time, everything was organized. So prioritization, organization, and self-assessment. Can you really do this? What can you really do? Put limits on, understand what your boundaries and your limits are. I will definitely say that, because to actually stay home all day with 4 children, you must have an outlet somewhere. You must have an outlet. I would say even with 2 children, you have to have an outlet somewhere. And that's something that you have to figure out, or you become, I don't want to say useless, but you just get to a point to where you've poured out, but who's restoring you? How are you being refilled, refreshed? So that is necessary to discuss also.
So how important were other relationships, and how did you maintain the relationships outside of the house? So we talked a lot about your relationship as a wife, as a mother, but you also talk about that support system when you were younger, when we were all younger, and being your family. But as you got older, as you made all these numerous moves, career moves, whether it's physical moves or like career moves, how were those outside relationships maneuvered?
Outside relationships were just that. They were outside relationships. You have,
Okay.
they were just that. You know, at work for me, you definitely have to be able to separate work from home.
Absolutely.
I know there are people who believe that you can work all day at work and then take home work at night. I do not believe that that is true. I do not believe that it is healthy. And I do think that you deprive your family of your personal physical being when that happens. So I have tried that. I have worked during the day, came home, did homework, cooked dinner, served dinner, checked homework, gave baths, put you guys to bed, and then go back to work. You're exhausted. You're absolutely exhausted. And in the midst of that, you know, you're working, your spouse is working. And is this really considered healthy time? You're working together, but we're working for the family. So the family, we're going to further them because we're going higher in our careers. But are we really? Because with that, you're depriving time from each other. That's valuable time. It's time, but it's not quality time. It is not quality time. And in a marriage, that is very necessary to spend quality time together. So hopefuls out there, when your families are coming along, when you're thriving in your careers, you have to take the time and be responsible for that number one relationship, which is to your spouse. Your children are going to be there for a time. And I am...
that's so interesting.
Those are debates.
That's a debate. Like in our generation...
Who comes first, your kids or your spouse?
And some people really will get upset, especially with moms, wives, when they're like husband before kids. People put it even in their Instagram bios, like the order of where those priorities lie.
Mother, wife.
Mother, wife, or is it?
And then they put
wife, mother,
career.
So you're saying it's wife, mother.
I definitely say wife, mother. And I say that because I say wife, mother because you were a wife before you became, preferably, before you became the mother.
I was going to say, well, that is not always the case.
No, it's not always the case.
So what it should not?
But it should be the priority.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the kids, you love them, they're going to be there. But those kids have, 18, 20 years in your house? Preferably 18 or less.
And less.
They could be smart or less. Child prodigies happen.
Oh my God.
Get one out of the house. But
as you say, all your kids still in the house. Well, actually, 2 out of 4.
Right. So, and what am I preparing you for? To get out of the house. Absolutely, right? So, as we do this, you made me lose my train of thought of what I was...
prioritize the wife over...
Yeah, I definitely say wife because the children are there for such a time as this. And then they're gone. And if your focus has been 200% on those children, when they leave, what happens to your relationship? You are literally there 15, 20 years later with someone that you don't even know. Because regardless of what we're doing with our children, we are still evolving as people. Yeah. We're still evolving. Those relationships that we meet outside of the house, those are impactful. Maybe they are more impactful than they should be because you're not spending the quality time that you should be at home.
Jeez.
So that becomes an issue that you don't even realize is an issue until 10, 15 years down the road. Then it becomes, oh, I like hunting. When did you start liking hunting?
Because you go hunting with your friends. You're right. You go hunting with me.
Okay. And that's okay if you go hunting with your friends. But now, what do we do together? You get up in the morning, you cook mini muffins for the kids, and there's no kids there. And your husband doesn't eat mini muffins, so you're lost.
Made me muffins.
You're just lost.
Mini muffins on the couch.
You're lost in this space. So it is very necessary that you cultivate that relationship as a couple, and that you continue to spend quality time together. Or, the consequence of it will be that you will get to that point. And so many mothers and so many of my friends and I've been guilty to a degree of this as well. You spend so much time doing other things that when you get to that point and you start seeing that point come down, now I'm probably not going to get a lot of amens on this one, but I think women do this more so than men do. But I think see this coming before men do. And personally, it was when my oldest son was graduating from high school. It was like, oh my God, he's actually leaving the house. Have we done all of this? Does he know this? Does he? So all of that's coming, and you're feeling that loss and that separation, and that separation anxiety is what it is, that my kid is leaving, and have I done everything? And but the bottom line is that child is leaving, and what do you have at home? So when you're feeling that, if your spouse isn't feeling that, then at some point in time they're going to feel those feelings too. So how do these feelings mesh? You're in two totally different places, So I am definitely a proponent of wife then mother. I would never tell any young mother, any of the young hopefuls out there, that you should put your children before your marriage, before your spouse. Absolutely, absolutely not. You train up your children in the way that they should go, but you train them together. That should be a mutual understanding in what we're training them in.
Vision.
Absolutely vision. So you cannot sacrifice your marriage for anything. Absolutely anything. And that's what we do all too often. We just, okay, I'll take care of the kids and do all of this because the kids are only going to be here for a little bit of time. And since they're only going to be here a short amount of time, I'll do this later. I'll do that later. I can do this next year. I can do this year after next. Oh, when the kids are gone, that's when I'll take up horseback riding. When the kids are gone, that's when I'll learn Spanish. When the kids are gone, and then when the kids are finally gone, you're so exhausted and tired, and most of the time, you forget you even wanted to do those things. And you could have been a much more cultured, educated, better person, feeling inside and out, had you just taken partial step to start those things, to work them out between you and your spouse too.
Wow. The gems. The gems. So do you think there's anything that you look back on and you would have wished you had done, wish you had gone there, wish you had, do you have any
horseback riding?
Yeah, you said horseback riding.
Those were actually my two things. I will be honest about those. Maybe about 5 years ago, because I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I try to better myself, do something that I haven't done before, learn something new. At the beginning of each year, I say, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I strive to do. And the two things that I did not do was, I did not learn horseback riding because I do like horses. And the other was conversational Spanish. I wanted to do that. I signed up for the Babbel and everything. But
right, I was going to say Spanish, girl.
Not just Buenos Dias and all
that. Conversational Spanish.
Wow.
So those are the two things I do need immersion, absolutely. Wow. So those are the two things that personally I put on the back burner. I said I would do later, or I started and I did not complete. So
that's not a long list. And two things you very much still do.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So.
This has been awesome. Honestly and truly. Do you have anything else you want to?
We do have an ending question, but go ahead if you want.
Oh, we have an ending question? No, I don't think. For the hopefuls out there, I will just say that value the time that you have to learn who you are and identify the things that bring you happiness and joy, and what your limits are, what your non-negotiables are. You need to be able to verbalize those things before you enter into a relationship with someone else. Because what you don't want to do is enter that relationship with someone, a serious relationship with someone, and you don't know what those things are. Because those things can be major pitfalls, if not devastating to your relationship. So that would be my greatest bit of information is, or tidbit, if you say, to your fans and friends, would be to take the time to know who you are. And more importantly, who you are in Christ, because a lot of that will help you. Just knowing who you are in Christ will bring you to a point where you'll be able to identify, some of the other things, like the things that bring you joy, the things that bring you happiness, the things that you just simply cannot tolerate. So then when those things come and show up in your life, you'll know right then, do not align yourself up with this, because this is something that personally I know I cannot work with. I can't tolerate. So why would you begin to start thinking that you can change someone, or thinking that because of me, they're going to not do this? No. They're bringing to the table who they are, just like you brought to the table who you are.
Okay. Wow. Okay, yes.
Dang. Wow.
So
you just need a moment on that one.
Yeah, we're going to sit in that one for a second, let that marinate.
Okay. Okay, so what we, at the end of every episode, this season, we're asking our guests a tip, or not a tip, a piece of advice.
A piece of advice.
A piece of advice for your younger self, and a piece of advice for your future self.
With everything you just shared, everything you know now.
Where you are now, what you're looking forward to.
And where you came from.
Yes.
I would have told younger Carla to, and I know this is going to sound weird, stay more focused. I would stay more focused. Although I do feel like I have accomplished, God has allowed me to accomplish most of the things that I set out to do in this life. But there's still more to come. I actually have a couple of books that I'm going to get out and publish in the next few months to a year or so. So, and hopefully they will be beneficial to some of the younger people, as well as, some of the ladies that are, and people that are my age as well. So I would say, just probably the younger Carla, I would have told her to stay just a tad bit more focused. Future Carla, at this point in life, I want to live and have fun and enjoy life, but I want to do so, which is the challenge that although I do believe to the best of my ability, I raised my family and stayed within the will of God for my life. I think that is more so my focus now. I just want to make sure that the decisions I make and the things that I do moving forward align myself with the will of God for where He wants me to be. And again, that's one of those things when you are in the rat race and on the hamster wheel of life with your individual needs, your family needs, your spousal responsibilities, that's one of the things, because my meditation time was driving to work in the morning, even though I would take, 5 minutes or so to say my prayer, thank God for giving me my health, strength, and, my being for that particular day as I'm, doing things for the family. At this point in my life, I want to be more focused and more dedicated to the things of God.
I love it.
That's a perfect way to end it.
I will say,
that's crazy.
Because we almost forgot this in the last episode. So she just mentioned these little books that she's going to be putting out there. But let me tell y'all, she has been working on our family cookbook 1. We'll just stop it there. Our family cookbook. You just found a recipe from your mother, correct? Mm-hmm. So it's going to be, photocopied? Mm-hmm. Photocopied in it. She has menu ideas. She has breakfast, lunch, appetizers. What's it? You said soups, desserts. Let me tell y'all, this is about to be a blessing. One, to our family. I think generationally, just to have a tangible these recipes that I can hold in my hand. Going back generations, really, to have it written down, to have it copied, to have it distributed is a huge thing. And I love that you're going to publish it as well. Because it's something that, one, a lot of people in our generation do not know how to cook, y'all. So, that is, I'm looking at these recipes and it's doable. This isn't like this foreign, some cookbooks are a little foreign where they're like, go out and milk a cow. But these are very tangible recipes, very realistic recipes for us. So I appreciate you doing it. I'm very excited. I will put it on all the social medias when it does drop, y'all. But definitely keep a lookout for the Family Cookbook. Do you have a title yet?
We do not have a title for it yet.
The Family Cookbook. Look out for it.
It's going to help y'all stop posting them nasty plates on Instagram. We see them.
Because plating is everything, am I right? Let me tell you. Because it doesn't just taste good.
But the food on their plates be looking nasty. So let's call it.
See,
it's okay.
But it is gonna help y'all out. So definitely keep a lookout for that, and for your other books. I won't tell too much about those. But honestly, there's a lot more in store. I can see it. I can feel it. So that is also exciting to see that you've done so much. You've raised us up. You know, you have been a good wife, and it's exciting to see that there's still things on the horizon. So
absolutely,
I'm excited for you.
Well, I'm excited for you guys too, and thank you for having me.
Of course, come back anytime.
Will do.
All right, y'all. Stay hopeful.